Yeah, there's one that I've caught like 4 times. He must not be real bright.
Everyone, John here from Cast the Spear, and today we got Dan from howtocatchanyfish.com back on the podcast to explain the proper way to release fish. Now, I know you've seen the old school way of holding a fish by the jaws. That's actually not the best way to take care of our fishy friends, especially if you're going to release the fish back into the water. And Dan's going to go into more detail why. So if you're ready, please welcome Dan.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I haven't always treated fish as well as maybe I should have. And there's certainly some pictures on my site where there's some examples of how not to hold fish. Although certainly some of the fish on my site I did end up keeping for food or what have you. But if you are going to release fish, obviously the least amount of handling, the better. You know, if I'm not going to take a picture of a fish, I usually don't even take it out of the water. You know, that's the best way. You know, it also starts with your tackle. So if I know I'm going to release all the fish that I catch, I usually pinch barbs down. You know, make it easier in case, even with lures, as I'm sure you know, sometimes they inadvertently swallow the hook. And if you have a barbed hook, that can really mess them up. But if you're using barbless hooks, it's very easy to just work it right out, regardless of where they're hooked. So barbless hooks is a good start, especially like for bass fishing. If you're fishing soft plastics where there's a good chance they'll swallow the hook. If you're going to release fish, you really need to use barbless hooks. And yeah, maybe you lose one or two fish that you wouldn't have otherwise. I'm not even sure that's the case. I haven't really seen, since switching to barbless hooks, I haven't really seen any change in the percentage of fish landed versus the ones that get away. And then once you land the fish, you know, having it flop around on the deck, that's a big no-no, really bad for the fish. They can hurt themselves banging their head, you know, on shore or on your deck or wherever it is. You want to make sure you're supporting the weight of the fish, you know, so maybe putting a hand under their stomach, you know, depending on the size of the fish. If it's, you know, if it's a little half-pound bluegill or something, you probably don't need to worry about that. But if it's, you know, anything more than a few pounds, you probably want to support the weight of the fish. Their bodies aren't made to be, you know, out of the water hanging off of something, and so the more support you can provide, the better. It's a good idea to make sure your hands are wet whenever you handle fish so that you don't take their slime coat off. That slime coat helps protect them from disease and bacteria and things, and so you don't want to rub that off by you know, using a dry rag or your hand or something that can rub that off. So support the fish with a wet hand. You know, handle it as little as possible. You know, take a quick picture if you're going to do that. Make sure, as far as the pictures, make sure your camera's all ready and you know, kind of the shot you want, how you're going to get it, and all of that. Because while you're fussing around with all those things, you know, when the fish is out of the water, that can cause long-term damage to the fish too. So you want to have all that set up ahead of time. You know, quick lift, photo, back in the water. And some fish take some reviving, so taking that time to kind of swim them forward with the boat, you know, move their head back and forth till they recover, get water flowing over their gills. You know, all that stuff is important. I actually haven't read that part of my website in a long time. I'm trying to remember what all it said.
Well, I was curious on the spearing method. You said if there's a hardy fish, you know, sometimes you can drop them head first into the water and they'll shoot the water through their gills, and that's all they need to kind of get brought back to life.
Yeah, you know, I've seen that work really well with a lot of big saltwater fish, rooster fish in particular. You know, sometimes if it's a long fight, they'll kind of go into shock and just kind of float. And I've seen it several times where if you just spear them head first, it'll kind of snap them open or snap them awake, and then they just swim off when, you know, maybe gentler techniques weren't really working. And I've even had I even had a big bass I caught a little while ago here in my lake. I spent probably 15 minutes trying to swim it next to the boat and revive it, and it was still just kind of floating there. And I tried the spearing technique, and it just kind of jolted awake and like darted off. So yeah, I mean, it's it's a good technique. You can't use it for every kind of fish, but especially for a lot of things in the jack family, I feel like it works really well. Big jacks and snappers and things like that.
Gotcha. For the delicate fish, when you're saying, kind of get the water to flow through their gills, you don't pull them back, do you? You always kind of push them forward?
The water should only be going one direction, which is the direction they're normally swimming forward. So no, I see a lot of people, even on fishing shows, they kind of swish them back and forth. And I mean, I'm not a marine biologist, but from what I've read, that's harmful to their gills and not helpful. So it kind of makes some logical sense that you would just be having the water flow the direction it naturally flows, which is forwards.
I think that's super helpful because I've seen, like you said, a ton of people just kind of go back and forth. And I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a real way to just go forward. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So that's really...
Yeah, I mean, it's good that those people are trying to release the fish, and I'm sure many of those fish survive. But you want to do as many different things right as you can to give them the best chance. And I actually in the lake that I live on, I tagged a bunch of fish a couple of years ago. And I still catch the tagged fish now and again, and I actually just caught one yesterday, and that kind of gives me some positive reinforcement that my release techniques are working.
Wow, that's cool to have that kind of feedback.
Yeah, there's one that I've caught like 4 times. He must not be real bright.
Well, that does it for this episode of the podcast. Did you learn anything? I sure did. I will definitely be taking care of my fish, especially the ones that I release, a lot better going forward. Thank you, Dan, for shedding light and clarity on the proper ways. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this podcast so you never miss when a new episode comes out. And if you have iTunes, it would mean the world to me if you can leave a comment and a rating. It helps us as we're getting started, kind of grow and share this with other people. And if you haven't already done so, sign up for the Cast and Spear newsletter. I'm going to be finding all the best fishing deals, and you won't miss any of the cool updates from the website, videos, podcasts, and all that good stuff. So just go to the website, castandspear.com, look for the button at the top, and enter your email. No spam, promise. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Keep those lines tight, everyone. See ya.